Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about something that is my favorite pastime. One of them is carving a chain. And today we're going to go outside and find a raw branch and start with that. So let's go outside. Okay, we got the wood, and this species of wood is basswood, also known as linden, and this one here is also basswood, and that's probably among the most desirable woods to work with. Pine and butternut would be all the other good alternatives. Anything much harder would be difficult to carve with. So here's what you got to do to start with. And I'm just drawing it on here with my pencil broke here. Okay, so you're doing like a cross like that. So this wood, that has to come away. And it's easiest if you just do that right away. These knives, pretty much you can do almost the whole thing with this particular knife. It's a Soligan made in Germany, and I have a few of them that are all the same. I just keep them sharp. This one is a Mora knife made in Sweden. It's a little bit longer, and that's good for whacking down stuff, getting your bark off. And it's that's not what we're doing right now. I don't need. You could take the bark off, but it doesn't really make a difference right now. So I start with this. And the reason I have more than one knife there is that I just like to keep one sharp at all times. Then I go sharpen them both when they get dull. So I'm coming in like this, and this is just fresh cut, so it's not even 10 minutes old here. So I'm coming in, peeling this out. So you have to just be mindful where your fingers are at. I plant my thumb down on the branch. This is the first cut, and when I'm cutting toward myself, you know it's only going to go so far. Just don't hold it like this and try to make sure you stop before you hit yourself. I just control it this way and take smaller cuts. Don't try to do too much. And then this is the other position where I'm using my thumb as a fulcrum. And I push it like that. So you keep cutting, making a relief cut, and then coming up to it. And fresh basswood really cuts clean and smooth and easy. Once it gets a little more seasoned, it's more tough, but it's still quite easy to carve. So you got to do this, continue to do it, and I would recommend doing it for the length of the piece you're going to make. Now this one here, it gets a little smaller down here, so I probably am going to make a chain up to about this line here. So you get about 3 or 4 links in there, and you get the idea how the chain is carved. And I've seen chains that are made out of one board that are maybe 50 feet long or something like that. I've seen pictures of them actually. And I've never been that ambitious to do that many. But a link takes me probably, if I'm not talking, I probably can do 1.5 hours or less. There are probably people that can do them faster than that, but it's one of my things that I do often when I'm sitting outside, just kind of a stress reliever, as long as you don't cut yourself. Now see how I'm planting my thumb here, so that if I'm pulling it toward me, my thumb's out of the way. But you got to have that. You can't just do it freehand like this here, because you need to have that resistance so you can make a good cut. Now one of the tools that I like to use in this is a skew chisel like that. Now I can get there and cut in here like this here. So, and what you're going to do is you're going to have to get this all the way down as far as you're going to carve it on all four sides. So you do the same thing there and there. Don't do any shaping, don't do any rounding of anything until you get this squared off and it becomes looking like this. I'm going to leave this aside for now. So when it gets like this, because this whole thing here was, and I see my pencil lines there, this was a raw piece of wood, and I did shape this all down before with carving knives. So let me take it from this point here. So you got the first link, and then you cut in halfway, and so it looks on the end grain, it looks like your cross like that. So like, let's say I was starting it on the end here, so I'd carve these down. I don't know how this is going to play out, but let's say just so you get an idea what I'm doing here. So this would all be cut down to this level here, and then I'd start to round them in. So you'd have it a straight shoulder there, and then you start rounding this. So I've gotten 3 links loose here. When you get down to this point here, this is where the tricky part is. So here I'm coming alongside. You don't want to take too much off of either side. So you can see what I'm doing here. Now I got to go a little bit this way and then come back and do a little bit this way. So I kind of use the link there as a fulcrum to kind of pry a little bit. And again, I'm having to come in here. So you're always working a couple links ahead. And then you come back and you can free up a little bit more. See, I'm cutting in here a little bit more. And I'm rounding this in a little bit more. A little trickier, you got to make sure you control it. Just make slicing cuts. Continue to relieve this out, and eventually you're going to see a hole there. You go all the way around. Continue to cut. Like I said, I'm going to go to a bigger knife here. I might be able to work a little faster. Now notice how I'm using my thumb to kind of help guide it and add pressure. This particular knife here is preferred by spoon carvers. This one I'm using right now. You can get a lot of work out of this thing. Again, I'm going to come into this position here, but being careful not to having a controlled cut. You see I'm cutting in. Always keep your tool, keep control. It's always good to keep mindful of what the edge is doing. One thing about a stiffer knife is you can get more leverage with it. It doesn't flex. And in some cases I overworked a very thin knife and broke it. This one you can really get in there deep. And just remember, a dull knife is more dangerous than a sharp one. You put more pressure on it and it slips. Okay, I'm going to come back up here and get a little bit more here. come back on this side. Now I'm going to switch to a thin bladed knife just to get in there without taking too much off of either side. The reason I'm using this thin knife, see I'm already down here, the reason I use a thinner one is that to press that thicker one in there could be you're likely to break the link, which you don't want to do. Going back to the main workhorse knife. I got to kind of do a little bit of a round cut here to get you just got to pay attention. The thing is a three-dimensional thing, so you got to keep turning it and seeing where you need to concentrate and not try to carve it all from one side, or you're going to end up with a link that's not proportioned right. I'm going to get this widened out here a little bit. I've never found any particularly practical purpose for a wooden chain. It's just, there's a lot of things like that. I've made a lamp that hung from the ceiling one time with a chain like that. I just think they're kind of cool. Made a watch chain too for a pocket watch, but it's a little too chunky. It was just more of a novelty. I'm getting pretty close. Many times if I go on with a group of people and we're doing some outdoor thing, I'll bring like a family reunion or something like that, and I'll bring the bunch of whittling knives. And two of my granddaughters really enjoyed carving. We actually weren't carving chains because it's a little hard for small hands, but we were carving walking sticks, and they just took to it, and they were carving away and talking, and it was kind of the most fun time I've had with kids. I'm mindful that, you know, their parents gave me permission to do it, so I was getting tired. They wanted to keep going, and they just loved to do it. And that's what's the most fun, is you get a bunch of people just sitting around if you got the patience for it. Some people want to be doing more active stuff. Another thing, when I was young and I was in high school, I walked by a woodcarver shop. I'd look in his window and see amazing things. Not whittling stuff like this is, but church carvings, you know, Byzantine style, things like that. And I wanted to see if I could get a job working for him. And I walked in there, and he said, "What, you want me to pay you to teach you how to carve?" And I didn't realize that's what I was asking. I was looking for a job because I want to learn how to carve. And I was working in a grocery store not too far away from there, and I wanted to see if I could do it, but it still was an inspiration to see what can be done with wood carving. And although I never, in all my years of doing this stuff, I never achieved his level of skill. He was trained in grease and very skilled. I found other wood carvers eventually. And it's always a learning thing. It's fun to show what I know, what I do. Actually, I'm getting a little further along here. And just kind of sit and show, like I did with my granddaughters and my grandson too. I want to show them what they can do and help them learn. Even in high school, my first dates I had with different girls, 2 different ones in particular. I would got them into carving too. I don't know why that was such a big deal for me. And we'd go and sit down at the park and whittle away and chit chat. Probably I was just a little more too shy to do something any more ambitious than that, like play tennis or something like that. I didn't do that very well. But they liked it, and it didn't end up being the right one for me. But the woman I'm married to now is very supportive of it. She just wants me to be sure I get the shavings off when I go in the house. That's her main thing. So she is not interested in learning how to carve, just keep it out here in the shop. Which is fine, it makes sense. It's probably going to be another few minutes here before I get this free. If you do this all the time, there's probably little tricks that other people who do this all the time can go faster than I do, but sometimes I don't really care how fast this is. I just don't want to cut myself. One time a friend of mine was helping me with doing a sculpture, and I was doing something like whittling a peg down with my knife, and he bent down right when I did a stroke like that, and I cut a line right across his glasses. Put a scratch in his glasses, which was a near disaster. So you pay attention to what's around you, and getting close. Now we're coming up to the most important step. Now this is where I like my thin knife, when I'm separating the links here. Okay, I'm all the way through there. And I'm through here, I'm through here, and I'm pretty close to being through up here. Now last little bit, you got to break. Like that, there we go. A little bit rough there, so now you just clean up that link. Again, I do a little bit of a shearing action here. All right, so there we have it. You can keep going. You just clean that up and shape them and make them all kind of look the same, and keep working down the next one. And that's it. That's how you carve a chain. Thanks for watching. And if you like this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and check out the links below for Instagram and other tools, links to sources, and we'll see you next time.